हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम। जय श्रील प्रभुपाद।
हिमांशु प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम। जय श्रील प्रभुपाद। यतिन प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्णा।
Dhanavad pranam, Shaman Prabhu.
नंदलाल प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम। प्रभु जी हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु।
यशोदा देवी हरे कृष्णा दंडवत प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम। जय श्री प्रभुपाद।
प्रिया मोहिनी देवी दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्णा। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिया। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Okay, dear Prabhuji's, Mataji's, thank you very much for joining. I hope you had a good exam. I know it was not easy. I heard from some devotees. Yeah. These papers, actually, we don't design these papers. Like as you saw in a question paper also, it comes from Chapati. Our role is just to facilitate in such a way and present it in such a way that devotees can answer it conveniently. So today we'll be reviewing the 8th chapter. It's called Attaining the Supreme, the connection between chapter 7 and chapter 8. Last two verses of chapter 7, Krishna uses 6 technical terms. Like last week we saw what is Adi Yagya, Adi Daiva, what is Brahman. Krishna explains, and then one can know the Supreme. Then based on, we will see those 6 terms Krishna uses, and this chapter begins with Arjuna asking description of those 6 terms. He asks for clarification for these terms and thus asks 8 questions in text 1 to 2. First, Krishna answers the first 7 questions and then discusses 8th question in detail. And the 8th question is, how can one know you at the time of death? So to describe the last is the rest of the chapter, and that's why the theme of the chapter is attaining the Supreme. Krishna also discusses Yoga Mishra Bhakti, devotional service mixed with yoga, Shuddha Bhakti, unmixed pure devotional service, and factors that determine soul's destination when it leaves the body. So this, we will see all of them. Breakdown of chapter 1 to 4, Arjuna 8 questions, Krishna 7 answers, 5 to 8, remembering Krishna at the time of death. Then remembering Krishna, or how to remember Krishna, the importance of remembrance of Krishna. This is, we will see that. Then pure devotional service, remembering Krishna through bhakti. And then Krishna speaks about the material and spiritual worlds. And at last, supremacy of pure devotion in attaining Krishna. And the essence of the 7th and 8th chapter is the last verse of this, summarizing these 2 chapters. So first is Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question. First, he asked what is Brahman, spirit. Then Krishna says it is indestructible living entity is Brahman. Adhyatma, controller of the body, and that is the self. The self controls the body. Yeah, and then what is Adhyatma also means what is the nature of the self, and the nature of the self is to serve. It's our constitutional position. So we are the controllers of the body, and the nature of the soul is to render service. That's Adhyatma. Then what is karma? Krishna says activity which generates a material body for the living entity. Karma is something that gives you next birth. Then what is Adi Bhuta, the material manifestation? Krishna says anything you see in this material world which is constantly changing is a material manifestation. Because Krishna says of the body, it's always changing, but for the soul, there is no change. Then what is Adi Daiva, the supreme demigod? Adi Deva, or the supreme demigod, or the origin of the demigod, then that's universal form, because within the universal form of the Lord, all the demigods are present, all the planets are present. So that's why he's a supreme Devata, Adi Deva. Deva means Devata, and Adi Deva means original Devata. Like Govindam Adi Purusha. Adi Purusha is Krishna, the original Purusha. Likewise, the original Devata is supreme Devata or supreme demigod, is a universal form. Then Adi Yagya means who is the enjoyer of the sacrifice. Krishna says that's Paramatma, or that is Krishna himself. Paramatma, Krishna sitting in our heart as Paramatma. Where does Adi Yagya reside? Krishna says in the region of the heart. So these are the 7 questions asked. 8th question he asked is how to remember Krishna at the time of death. Answer to 8th question is the main subject for the rest of the chapter, and that's why this chapter is called Attaining the Supreme. Now, Atma, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, according to Vedic dictionary, refers to mind, soul, body, and also senses. Like Atma can refer to, Atma basically means I. It can refer to mind based on the context. It can refer to soul. It can refer to body. And then Brahman in the same way, it can refer to supreme absolute truth or individual soul. In other words, Brahman is a very big word. In a way, it can have many, many meanings. Prabhupada gave a simple definition of Brahman, and Prabhupada says the word Brahman means spiritual. So Brahman can mean the impersonal aspect of Krishna. Brahman can also mean the spirit soul because it is spiritual. Brahman can also refer to Krishna. Prabhupada specifically mentions sometimes the word Para Brahman is used to refer to the form of Krishna. So Brahman general definition Prabhupada says is anything spiritual can be referred to as Brahman. And the Vedic Prabhupada describes the Vedic aphorism that says Aham Brahmasmi, how it is misinterpreted by Shankaracharya that I am God and Brahman is supreme God. The word, that's a misinterpretation. The word Aham Brahmasmi means I am spirit soul, or I am spiritual by nature. In that way, we are Brahman. Then there is, in the purport, Prabhupada describes about Panchayagya Vidya, or 5 kinds of offering, 5 kinds of sacrifices. This is just for information, no need to remember as such specifically. But from faith comes, once those who have faith in the Lord, they go to heavenly planets, because it is said that in heaven, everyone is a devotee of the Lord. Everyone approaches Lord Vishnu for any difficulty. Those who have faith approaches heavenly planets. It will go in a zigzag way. So try to understand in that way. Then heavenly planets, after then they enjoy the moon, which is one of the heavenly planet. Then after they leave, it is said that there is no as such death, but it just, when the time is over, there is no disease, there is no old age in the heavens. When their tenure is over, they remain floating in the clouds. Then rain comes. Through the rain, they come to earth. Then they enter into the grains. The man eats the grain. The man forms semen. Semen is passed on to a woman, and woman gives child. So this describes Prabhupada describes 5 kinds of sacrifices and 5 kinds of offerings. So these are the things that are offered in those sacrifices. Those who are not spiritual, to get a human birth, they should perform these kind of sacrifices, or like Karma Kanda section, not for devotees. But Krishna says those who, there is a harmony between men and demigods, and they should perform yajna to please the demigods, and demigods will give the rain, and that cycle will go on. But those who are devotees, naturally human birth is provided. Then the next is remembering Krishna at the time of death.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have one question.
Yes.
On the first slide, Prabhuji, spirit and adhyatma. Can you a little bit elaborate on that? I'm a little confused. Spirit and adhyatma, like you are saying eternal nature?
Yeah,
For
adhyatma. Yeah, adhyatma may mean the controller of the soul, or adhyatma also means what is our original nature. So that's why our original nature is surrender.
Controller of the soul can be
Sorry, controller of the body.
Controller of the body is nothing but a spirit, Prabhuji, correct?
The soul, yeah. So it refers to the soul, and the nature of soul is to render service to Krishna. The reason this comes, Prabhupada says, is because Atma can refer to the body. Then Adhyatma means who is the owner of the body, that's the soul. Atma can refers to the soul. Then what is the nature of the soul? It is to render service. So based on Atma, the word Adhyatma can have multiple meanings.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Himanshu Prabhu. Okay, then
Hare
remembering
Krishna Prabhuji.
um,
Dandat Pranam Prabhuji.
Dandat Pranam Mataji, Hare Krishna.
I don't have question Prabhuji, just right now I am starting, so that's why I say my obeisances to you.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. My obeisances to you also, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much Prabhuji.
So then we come to the next section. Next 4 verses describe, after the 8 questions were asked, 7 were answered, 8th remain. How can one attain you? So Krishna directly give the answer how he can attain. So the next verse says, whoever remembers me at the time of death will attain me. Whoever remembers Krishna at the point of death will attain the supreme destination. I'm sure many of you know the verse. It is not possible for an impure soul to remember Krishna. Purify yourself by practicing remembrance. Prabhupada says, unless we are remembering Krishna now, it won't be possible to remember Krishna at the time of death. If not practice, one cannot remember Krishna at the end of the life. And Prabhupada says one can remember Krishna by constantly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the purport. But it is said that body is, the life is a preparation. Death is an examination. An examination means to remember Krishna at time of death. How to practice remembrance? So Prabhupada gives some tips. They are just good to know. about how to practice remembrance, live in a mode of goodness. Mode of goodness, I mean, if you want to remember Krishna, mode of goodness means have a schedule, keep yourself busy, don't engage in acquiring many material desires, then because that then we go into passion. Food in goodness, which anyways is prasad. So in that way, try to live early in the early morning, daily reading, hearing, like basically schedule yourself, and that will help us to come to mode of goodness. So live in a mode of goodness, life dedicated in serving to Krishna and thus thinking of Krishna. So Prabhupada says, if you're serving Krishna, you're thinking of Krishna. Another way is also we saw in the 6th chapter, some of you saw the exams also. In the beginning, work is said to be the means. At the end, cessation of work is said to be the means. So at this point of time, we may not have the adhikar to just sit and remember Krishna, because free time is not, we may not be very expert in using all the time. Even if we have 10 hours, how many of us can sit and just think of Krishna for 10 hours? Then mind may go and take us in various difficult things. We become lazy, we may sleep more, or we may just go into opulent eating, or we may talk many things to many people. So energy may go in very different directions. So for us, work is said to be the means. Keep yourself engaged, keep yourself in Krishna's service, keep yourself busy. Somehow or other, dovetail everything we are doing in the service of Krishna. So life dedicated in service to Krishna and thus always thinking of Krishna. Then constant and incessant chanting of the holy name. Prabhupada says best process, best is to chant in the morning. That's mode of goodness. Try to absorb, try to be sincere in your chanting. Try to chant more. Prabhupada says incessant chanting. If we don't practice remembering Krishna now, how can we remember Krishna at time of death? Tolerate all impediments like a tree. That also goodness, that will help us. Because if we don't tolerate, if we become angry, or if we retaliate, or if we speak some words not very pleasing to other devotees to hear, it will have an adverse effect on our own sadhana, and it will impact our remembrance. Like we hear humility, tolerance, offering respect to others. These are not expecting respect for oneself. These are the ways that we can remember Krishna. And unless we are sincere about remembering Krishna or doing things that are favorable to remember Krishna now, how will we deepen our remembrance? The point is to become so deep in our remembrance to Krishna that at some point of time, remembrance will become automatic. Right now, it's not automatic for us because we are in state of sadhana bhakti. That's why we need deep attachment for Krishna. So then it will become natural for us. That is the goal. One state of mind at the time of death, then Krishna generalizes. He says, this is all from the purport. Prabhupada says, like, if you remember me at the time of that, you will come to me. Then Prabhupada has a nice purport. We should continuously chant, live in a life of goodness, tolerate the impediments. He gives some tips how to practice Krishna consciousness today. That's why we say life is a preparation. So these are the tips that will prepare us to remember Krishna time of death. Then Krishna generalizes in the next verse and he says, if you don't remember me, then whatever you remember, you will attain that state. Many stories Prabhupada says about Bharat Maharaj and other examples are there. Always think of me in the form of Krishna. Then the next verse Krishna says that you do these two things simultaneously, which is carry out a prescribed duty, which is for Arjuna fighting. Abandoning our duty is not an option. Whatever duty, now the duty itself becomes remembering Krishna at a very advanced stage. But at that point of time, that is not our duty. Our duty is serving. We need to physically engage our body. That is training. Just like in Ashtanga Yoga, physically engaging our body is asanas, pranayam. These are the things that are required. If somebody directly goes and sit into samadhi, he will not remember. Krishna says we cannot give up our nature. So that's why work is said to be the means. Prabhupada also says work now, samadhi later. So we need to physically schedule ourselves in such a way that our free time is absorbed, engaged. in such a way that those work and activities are centered around Krishna. Prabhupada says, don't have to remove everything, just bring Krishna into the center. And this is called sadhana bhakti. These are instructions, like my spiritual master says specifically, he says, get up, do deity worship, get up, chant your rounds, do deity worship, cook bhoga for Krishna, offer, do arati. Then whatever work we have, taking care of family members in between reading and hearing, in that way, make your schedule in a mode of goodness centered around Krishna. So those duties we should follow. We should carry out all our prescribed duties centered around Krishna and think of Krishna. For Arjuna, fight and remember Krishna. So that is how to remember Krishna and the importance of remembering Krishna. And if you remember something else, that decides our next destination. The next section specifically, Krishna speaks about, first he emphasizes, whoever remembers me at the time of death will attain me. Now here Krishna says, what are the various ways and forms one can remember me? Then he says, after stressing remembrance in previous section, now he explains how he can be remembered. So Krishna says, you can remember me as a Kavi, knower of everything past, present, future, as oldest, all born out of him, the original person, from him everything emanates, as the controller, I'm Sarva Karana Karanam, whatever situations, like these are the ways Krishna says you can remember me. Or in other words, remembering Krishna in the surrounding, seeing everything as Krishna's arrangement. Any difficulty comes, well, Krishna wants me to learn something. Maybe Krishna is giving my karma back to me to see how I respond in this situation. Relate everything to Krishna and see how Krishna is in control. Anything good, Krishna has a plan. Anything bad, Krishna has a plan. And Krishna is all good. Then Krishna is smallest of the smallest, how Krishna is within every atom. How Krishna is within the heart of all living entity, how small he has to be to enter the atom. And soul is like 1/10,000th tip of the hair, and he's within the heart of the soul. So seeing Krishna from that perspective, how he's maintainer of everything. Today we were discussing, the splendor of sun and moon comes from Krishna. We discussed in 7th chapter. The digestion, or the fire of digestion, is Krishna. The planets are floating because of Krishna. So all my maintenance, or how Krishna is providing, how Krishna is taking care, maintenance of everything. Or if anything is provided, this is Krishna's mercy. In a way, this is all some tips Krishna says how to remember me now in this stage. Naturally, at the stage of pure devotion, one remembers directly Krishna in Vrindavan. But at our stage, we see Krishna they remember Krishna in Vrindavan, but this is also constantly there. But this is something how we can practically remember Krishna. Like one person was very much attached to drinking wine. Prabhupada says, see that the taste of wine that you are drinking is Krishna. So Prabhupada is installing, remember Krishna in everything surrounding. You can continue drinking wine, just see the taste of wine is Krishna. Then beyond all material conception, all big planets are floating by his energy. Achintya, he is inconceivable. Yes, I cannot see him, but I can feel him. I can see his arrangement. He is always a person, as indicated by the word Rupam. He is luminous like a sun. Like it is said, when Ajamil saw the Vishnu Dutas, the Yam Dutas were there. They were about to take the soul of Ajamil. When Vishnu Dutas came, it was, their effulgence was like the sun. This is not even Vishnu, this is Vishnu Dutas. And Yam Dutas told Vishnu Dutas, your effulgence is like Surya Sama. You look to be very pious people. Why are you saving this Ajamil? And they said, because he chanted the name of Hari, he is free from all contaminations. So luminous like sun, the Lord. He is transcendental beyond this material nature, how all of his activities are not contaminated by material modes. Okay. Then further on remembrance Krishna, describe practices of these yogis. So how the flow is going. Arjuna asked 8 questions, Krishna answers 7. How to attain one at the time of death? Yes, you can attain at the time of death if you remember me. Otherwise, whatever you remember, that's the state you will attain at the time of death. You should practice remembering Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duties. You can remember me as the controller, as smaller than the smallest. Yes, Shweta Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the like at the time of death, if a person is like practicing devotee or they were pious the entire life and they were also devotee, but at the time of death, because of the organs are not working and the like body and mind, they are not in control and they are unable to remember, Prabhuji, Krishna will take care, right? But just because they have practiced devotion for the entire lifetime.
It depends. Krishna will take us, and Krishna will not take us, Mataji, unless we have developed love for Krishna, unless we have become completely pure. Krishna will not take us. But Krishna will give us a human birth in the life of a devotee, so we can continue from where we left off. There are stages of bhakti. Like one devotee asked to Dwarkadish Prabhu, I think Bhagavatacharya Prabhu, what should be the goal of life? And Dwarkadish Prabhu said, at least reach the stage of Nishtha. Nishtha means no anarthas. And then you can continue to further stages. But for a pure devotee, if he doesn't remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna will appear in front of him and will take him.
Okay. Okay.
Answers clear?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Now then Krishna describes practices of these yogis. Now there's Yoga Mishra Bhakti. As you say, Krishna says, now Krishna is very neutral. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita speaks about all the three aspects. He speaks about Brahman, he speaks about Paramatma, he speaks about Bhagavan. He also speaks about how the Bhagavan aspect is supreme. We see in the 12th chapter, we will see Arjuna's question. In the 8th chapter, you spoke about Brahman and how to attain Brahman. And now you are remembering in 11th chapter, at the end, you say, this form of mine is the most rare. Should I remember you now in personal form or in a personal form? Krishna says, well, both are good for liberation, but those who remember me in my personal form are the best. And the impersonal realization is difficult to obtain for those who actually are personal. So it's unnatural to remember the impersonal form. But we see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks of, that's why Bhagavad Gita can be interpreted in many ways. But generally, Krishna speaks about all the three, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. In this chapter also, Krishna explains how one can attain the Bhagavan realization or how one can attain Brahman realization. He speaks about yogis and mystics, how they attain Brahman by when they leave the body in different things, and how by unalloyed devotion one can come to me directly. And that's why it's called pure devotional service Krishna speaks about. And Krishna speaks about devotional service mixed with Gyan, because Gyanis, they aspire for Brahman and yogis aspire for Paramatma. And like 13th chapter or various chapter, we will go in detail. Krishna speaks about the qualities of Paramatma in detail. 18th chapter, Krishna speaks about all, but then he says the most confidential knowledge, he says, always remember me, become my devotee, offer obeisances unto me. So his conclusion is Bhagavan, but nonetheless, all the three topics are there. And that's why it can be interpreted by different interpreters based on what they want. They can give the same interpretation to entire Gita. Okay, so here Krishna says Sat Chakra Yoga, which is raising the life air into the into Agya Chakra, chanting Om, renouncing all sense gratification, especially sex life. Prabhupada also says in the purport, in the school of Jnanis, there is no householders. It's an extreme path for those who are too renounced or too disgusted with this material existence. But those who are balanced, Bhakti Yoga, easiest, and all ashrams, balance path. So this is Ashtangi, Jnani, they are mainly renunciate. So here it says, Krishna says, renounce all sense gratification, especially sex life. For devotees also has to be regulated, otherwise it will create bondage. And if it is illicit, then the Kali will take over us. Chant Om, raise the chakra to the top of the head. Fix the mind on heart and life fair on the top of the head. Quit the body while thinking of Supreme Personality of Godhead. He will certainly reach spiritual planets. So this is Yoga Mishra Bhakti, which is how can one attain Vaikuntha through this path of raising, getting the life fair to Agya Chakra, leaving the body at one's will, and while leaving the body, remember the Lord, which is basically for them Narayan, and go to Vaikuntha planets. So this is Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Is it clear, this practice of yogis?
Prabhuji, in this also moon location is required when moon is going to the north or something like that.
That will come ahead, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay.
That are those who are not very accomplished purposes. Those who are accomplished, they can leave the body at their will and they go to Vaikuntha. They don't depend upon the time they leave the body. But those who are mystics or yogis, those who are not perfect, their destination depends upon the time they leave the body. All right, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Any other question on this? Okay, then Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. So is this Ashtanga Yoga Prabhuji? Yoga Mishra Bhakti, practicing the Satchakra Yoga?
This is more like it can be seen as Ashtanga Yoga. Otherwise, I don't know if Ashtanga Yoga people also do this. Yeah, mainly people who enter into Samadhi, they do that. Correct.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then Krishna raises the bar and he speaks about, then he sees that this is much easier. And he says, I can easily be obtained. On the other hand, there are people who can chant Om, do Satchakra Yoga, bring the life here in the mind, fix on the region of the heart, and in the heart, you remember me, leave the body from the Mool Chakra or Agya Chakra, attain the spiritual planet. On the other hand, Krishna says, I can easily be obtained by one who remembers me without deviation and who is constantly engaged in my devotional service. So this is the path Prabhupada says we follow, Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. Constantly try to serve Krishna. Don't worry about where chakras are going, up or down. You will definitely go to Krishna if you try to remember Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, and if you try to serve Krishna. This is the path of Bhakti Yogis. This is easier path. Krishna himself described, I am easy to obtain if one do these two things. So that's pure devotion service section. Then after attaining me, Krishna says, great souls, he calls them Mahatma. They never return to this place, which is defined as temporary and miserable. Dukhalyam Ashashvatam verse comes here. They never return here. Then Prabhupada in the purport describes who are great souls. Then Prabhupada says, who are great souls? They are born, they have a guru, connect to parampara, follow the instruction of guru, practice sadhana bhakti, gradually develop their devotion, attain the highest absorption, and then finally they work only for Krishna's satisfaction, only for Krishna's pleasure. And once they are working only for Krishna's pleasure and are absorbed in Krishna fully, they become great souls. And then Prabhupada defines them as great souls, and Krishna says these great souls, they attain to the highest planet. They never come to this place, which is temporary and miserable. And for that to do, remember Krishna without deviation by chanting Hare Krishna and engage in devotional service. Then Krishna explains why this word is miserable. He says, because there is death and birth in every planet. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punavartano Arjuna, from Brahma Lok down, whoever you are, whichever body you are in, birth and death is there. On contrast, it's a wrong word, contrast to my abode, where there is no, but one who go on cycle of birth and death, but one who come to my abode, they never return to this place. So this is the path of pure devotion. So this is, so section 3, 4 verses speaks about Yoga Mishra Bhakti, chakras and all those things. The next section is devotional bhakti, pure devotional service, just remembering Krishna. Then by devotional service, it's easy to obtain. Then Krishna explains the comparing the material and spiritual world. Krishna explains there is Brahma's day and Brahma night is 1000 yuga cycles, which is one yuga cycle is, he uses the word ages, 1000 ages constitute one day of Brahma, and similar is duration of night, where the age Prabhupada says yuga cycle, Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga combined. There is continuous annihilation. Krishna speaks about annihilation at the time birth and death is there. Prabhupada says 3 types of annihilation during our lifetime. The body dies. After Brahma's day, there is a partial annihilation. After Brahma's life, there is complete annihilation. So whether we are in Brahma's planet, whether we are demigods, whether we are here, at least these are the time we annihilate. Or at least if we are Brahma also, then during Brahma's time we annihilate. So birth and death is there. Intelligent persons, they make full use of human life. They don't want to go through the cycle of birth and death. And Krishna says the reason this place is miserable and it is temporary because no matter who we are, we die. And then we take birth again and we die. So intelligent people break this cycle and they go to a spiritual world where there is no birth and death. Spiritual world is described eternal. There is no birth and death. First thing, 2 meaning of eternal. One meaning is the spiritual world itself is eternal. Another is the spirit souls who goes and get a spiritual body. They are also eternal. Then infallible, because Krishna's superior energy is opposite to material energy. Those who are within the material world, everyone is a fallible living entity, Krishna says. But those who go to spiritual world, because of spiritual energy, they are always absorbed in Krishna consciousness, full of unlimited bliss, as opposed to material world, which is miserable. Krishna says, very happy place. Fulfills all desires, because all the cows are desire fulfilling, all the trees are desire fulfilling. There is a beautiful story in Ramayana of Vashishta Muni and Vishwamitra, and Vashishta Muni had a cow, and Vishwamitra asked Vashishta Rishi that I have many soldiers, I am looking for some food. So Vashishta told Vishwamitra that you go and take bath in the river, come back, I will arrange for food for all of you. Then Vishwamitra, say King Vishwamitra, later on he became a Muni. He came with so many soldiers, and there was thousands of plates of prasad arranged by Vashishta Rishi. He was very much surprised. How there is so much food? How did you arrange in a forest? And then he said, well, this cow, Kamdhenu cow, gave it. Kamdhenu cow, whatever you want, it gives it. Then he told Vashishta that, I need this cow. Vashishta said, I cannot give you this cow because I perform yagya. This cow give me the ladle, the fire, the wood, the ghee, the grains, whatever I want, this cow gives. And my sadhana is to do this. Vishwamitra said, no, I want it. Otherwise we will fight. So later on, there's a whole story, but Kamdhenu cow, so that's why spiritual world fulfills all desires, but the desire Prabhupada says is one with Krishna's desire. There is no desire for personal satisfaction, but when we become one in love, then whatever, even for pure devotees, whatever Krishna wants, that desire will manifest in the heart of a devotee. This is what Prabhupada says is called the real oneness. You are one in desires. Whatever Krishna wants will manifest in the heart of a pure devotee, and pure devotee will start praying for it. Very good example is Brahma. When he was born, Brahma was praying to Krishna for creative potency, and Krishna says, the creative potency you are asking, I have already given it to you. So Brahma also developed a desire, I want to create. And that desire was because Brahma became purified. For in the first hand, he was impure, so he was just searching for his identity. When he became pure, he prayed to Krishna for creative potency, and that is oneness, real oneness. Krishna's desire becomes your desire. In one way, it can be said, Prabhupada desired. In another way, it can be said, whatever Krishna desired was transferred to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada prayed, and Krishna fulfilled those desires. This is oneness. So in spiritual world fulfills all desire, but desire is in oneness. This place is all attractive. Nobody wants to leave there. it is unmanifest to the mundane eyes. The unmanifest means we cannot see it, because Krishna says even the soul is invisible, cannot be seen with mundane eyes, because mundane eyes can see only matter. So the improper commentators, they say spiritual world is unmanifest or spiritual world is Brahman. So, but Prabhupada says unmanifest means cannot be seen with material eyes, only matter can be seen. Transcendental to manifest and unmanifest, different from material world, which is repeatedly manifest and unmanifest. It is transcendental. Supreme destination, a place of no return. So this is comparing the material and spiritual world. So material world, cycle of birth and death, Brahma cycle also, top to bottom, birth and death, make full of human life, go back to spiritual world. And spiritual world, these are the characteristics. They are covered in 4-5 verses. And how to attain the Lord, abode of the Lord, Krishna says, Ananya Bhakti. This is the 22nd verse, the last verse in this section. Only by one can attain to spiritual world by Ananya Bhakti. Okay, then the last section, which is supremacy of pure devotion attaining Krishna. It's divided like two kind of path. One is who attain Brahman and one is who attain Bhagavan. So first section, 4 verses, Krishna explains how can mystic attain Brahman, and then last 2 verses, how bhaktas attain Bhagavan. Both are mentioned because when the question is how can one attain supreme, then Prabhupada says supreme has many aspects, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So Krishna speaks about all the aspects. Then ways of living the body. This is for the path of yogis and jnanis and karmis, except bhaktas. Their desire is Brahma Jyoti. If they are purposes, if they are perfect, they remember Vaikuntha, Narayan, live at their will and attain the Vaikuntha planets. Those who are not perfect, it depends on their time of leaving the body. They either attain Brahman or they go to heavenly planet. If they live in an auspicious time, attain Brahman, never return. Inauspicious time, attain the heavenly planet like the moon planet, enjoy there for sufficient time, come back, resume, attain perfection at their own will, directly go to Vaikuntha. Still in the next life cannot attain perfection. In human birth, again depending on their time, either attain Brahman or attain moon planet, and this continues. For Bhakta, they don't worry, unalloyed devotional service, and they directly go to, Krishna says, my own abode. In light, influence of fiery god, which is during the daytime, auspicious moment of a day, fortnight of waxing moon, 6 months when sun travels to the north. Attain Brahma Jyoti, or in darkness, during smoke, fortnight of waning moon, or 6 months when sun passes to south, reaches the moon and again comes back. Attain heavenly planets and return to earth. Then bhaktas, any path at any time, unalloyed devotees, Krishna says they come to my abode and never return back. Now all the abodes are eternal, Brahman, Vaikuntha or Goloka, all are eternal. Brahman can also be referred to as one who goes there, never return back. Krishna says one who attains my abode can be referred in different aspect. Prabhupada compared them to perfect, more perfect and most perfect. If they attain Brahman, they from there also they don't return back, in a way that they stay here for a very, very long time, maybe like billions of lifetimes. In that way it is said they don't come back. But Bhagavatam, Brahmaji mentions, but they also come back because there is no service and the nature of the soul is to render service. So from that perspective, it is temporary. It's just like Samudra Manthan Leela, and it is like those who drink the nectar, there is no death. They drink the nectar, still they die, but after a very long time. Or we say like there are those who are always there, like Chiranjeev, like Hanuman or Ashwadhama, Vyasadev. They are some of the Chiranjeevs, but still they will also go. So when the life is infinitely long, it is said in simple terms, they are like, they never die. So from that perspective, Brahmans can be said as never return. Goloka is like absolute perfection because the soul is Soul has attained the constitutional position, which is relationship with Krishna, and very satisfied serving Krishna in one's own relationship. Brahman is unnatural, but no material desire. But desire for service may come. I want to help, I want to serve. That desire brings them back and confines them. And then once they come back, only by association of pure devotees can they uplift to Golok Vrindavan. And this is the last verse, this is the last slide. Last verse is summation of chapter 7 and 8. A person who accepts the path of pure devotional service is not bereft. This is like 7 chapter, 8 chapter summary, Bhakti Yoga. We will see all these chapters, they end with Bhakti Yoga. Not bereft of the result derived from study of the Vedas. Prabhupada mentions in purport, study of the Vedas means following the path of Vedas. Following the path of Vedas is Varna Ashrama, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Prasanyas. Whether one perfectly follows all that path and study the Vedas, or do the yagyas, like mystics, do the tapa, do the dan, or like finally attain, means a person who perform devotional service is not bereft of the result obtained from dan, tapa, yagya, Veda, any other path. So they get the result of all those things and they attain the supreme destination. They come to me. So in other words, the summary is practice pure bhakti. Vedeshu yaggeshu tapashu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti yat sarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Vedeshu yaggeshu tapeshu chaiva. Whether tapa, whether yagya, whether Veda, daneshu, whether dana, yat punya phalam pradishtam. You will be given or pradan, awarded the phalam, the punya phalam of doing all these things, tapa, yagya, Veda, dan, and everything else through this path, which is referred in previous one, which is the path of unalloyed devotion, that this path will give you result of all these things, param sthanam, and you will come to the highest destination, which is Krishna's abode, and never returns back. Okay, so that's the summary of 8th chapter. If there's any discussion, we can take now. Seems to be an easy chapter.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Dandavat pranam Mataji.
Dandavat pranam Prabhuji. Is it only through human birth one can attain the Lord's abode, or through any other birth also?
Yeah, Prabhupada does mention one can attain to Brahmaloka also. One can go from Brahman realization also. But at Brahman stage, they have to do sadhana. Brahma, if he is Krishna conscious, then Prabhupada says from Brahmalok, he will go back to Vaikuntha Lokas. Or if he is not Krishna conscious, then he will degrade from there. Heavenly planets also it's possible. Prabhupada also mentions somewhere else in the purport, from heavenly planet they can go to Mahalok, Janalok, Taplok, Brahmalok. From there they can elevate. And then Prabhupada says in general it is very difficult, or it's like a rare cases. But possibility is there. There is mention that these heavenly beings also. Now another aspect is they can go to Vaikuntha Loka. There is no access to Goloka. Goloka access only Mahaprabhu gives. That is a prerogative of Mahaprabhu. Then to go from other planets, gradual sadhana, the path is very difficult. Prabhupada also mentions in Kali Yuga, within few years of sincere bhakti, one can directly go to Goloka. That's why Kali Yuga, especially when Mahaprabhu has appeared, Kali Yuga is the best stage. Very simple sadhana, very high result. Does it answer?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Anything else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat pranam.
Mataji Dandavat pranam, Hare Krishna.
So, Hanuman, he's Chiranjeevi, right?
Yes.
So, in in Chaitanya Leela, like when Murari Gupta, he showed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his Murari Gupta, like he reminded him as his role of Hanuman in Ramayana, and he gave the darshan in the form of Rama. So how that can be understood? I mean, how we can understand that?
Well, we can say it is said that a living entity in pure state can expand.
Yeah, I remembered. So you told that in 7 forms that can be expanded at the time, right? Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you.
And one more question. So the dog which was delivered, whose Shivananda Sen was helping, right? So how we can understand that? Like he did not perform like directly devotional service, right? So how he could deliver?
So Nectar of Devotion explains there are sadhana siddha, there are kripa siddhas. Especially when Lord comes, one can attain perfection by kripa siddha. So he was a kripa siddha because he became dear to Shivananda Sen. He received the mercy of a devotee. Or he can be a kripa siddha like in his Adi Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought a puppy and he was playing with him. And Jagat and Sachi Mata, he released her. Then he was crying, "Where is my puppy? Where is my puppy?" as a small Nimai. And then all the villagers, they saw the next day the flight came and he stepped on the flight and left. So they understood he attained the supreme destination. Kripa siddhas all. Either kripa by Bhagwan or kripa by a bhakta.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay, anything else?
Krishna Prabhuji,
Santas Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you mentioned in one slide that karmis and yogis will go to attain Brahman, and bhaktas will be back to Godhead anytime while in the devotion service. How about Ashtanga yogis, Prabhu? They will be focused on super soul, right? So what is their
Vaikuntha. Because super soul is Narayan, so we go to Vaikuntha planets. Narayan's abode. Is that your question? No.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Anything else? Any other question? Okay. Prabhuji's Mataji's. Thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dandavat pranams, Prabhuji Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanyavad pranam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.